It's time for the Cupdate on Action Sports Jax 24/7.
It ain't on. There we go.
Oh boy, time to fire up the siren in Dawsonville. For those unfamiliar with the screeching, squealing noise you are currently hearing, this is the tradition that they do in Dawsonville, Georgia. This is older video from a couple years back, but anytime Chase Elliott wins a race in his hometown of Dawsonville, they connect that siren to somebody's car battery right outside the Dawsonville pool room and light it up for everybody in that small town of Dawsonville to enjoy. All right, I'll save you from hearing that siren anymore. That didn't sound great, but they love it in Dawsonville, and they love Chase's dad, Awesome Bill from Dawsonville. Awesome Chase from Dawsonville just doesn't ring quite the same way, but they love him just as much as they loved his dad, Bill, winning all those races back in the day. Welcome into the Action Sports Jax Cupdate here on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network as we take you through the NASCAR Cup Series and all things racing as the Cup Series visited Texas this past weekend. And as mentioned, well, it was Chase Elliott in that number 9 getting the victory. The first win in 42 races for Elliott, NASCAR's most popular driver. By the way, it was a curse-breaking victory as well. That Hooters car hadn't been to victory lane in nearly 30 years since Alan Kulwicki did it way back in the day, the late Alan Kulwicki. And by the way, Chase Elliott paid homage to Kulwicki by doing a Polish victory lap as he took that thing in the opposite direction there at Texas Motor Speedway. That victory also continues the Hendrick domination. Now, 5 wins out of the 9 races so far this year have gone to Hendrick Motorsports. 3 to William Byron, 1 to Kyle Larson, and now 1 to Chase Elliott, who really had been knocking on the door here the last few weeks. We've known that Hendrick Motorsports has been strong. We've known that they were the class of the field. Well, Chase Elliott proving that he was the class of the field on Sunday at Texas Motor Speedway, the number 9 in victory lane.
I've just been really proud of our group for sticking together because, you know, I'm sure a lot of you guys have been around the sport long enough to understand and know that, you know, when you have a couple bad years or, you know, a period of time that things aren't going well, it is so easy to jump ship and to start bailing out on one another. And I think that the win's great, all that stuff is fantastic, but I'm truthfully most proud of the journey and the group of people that we have climbed back up together with.
I think we had a lot of momentum as a team and a lot of belief and just a lot of positive energy, a lot of good things going on. But yeah, like you kind of see that intersecting with the track that traditionally is not a great track for us. So I think everybody just focused on the positive and what we could potentially do here and not really you know, how difficult it's been in the past, and yeah, overcame it, so super proud of that.
All right, so the chase is over, at least the chase for a win, something that hadn't happened in a long time. Remember, Chase did not win all of last year, partially because of missing races due to injury, also missing races due to suspension, and just not being able to visit victory lane. But certainly the chase in that regard is over, but the chase for a second Cup Series championship, well, that is still on. 17 races until we get to those playoffs and start with our 16-man field. We'll show you the latest standings here in just a second, but let's start by taking a look at your top 5 finishers from this race, the Echo Park 400 out there in Texas. Elliott, there's his teammate William Byron, who has been really the top driver so far in NASCAR this year, as mentioned, 3 wins. Tyler Reddick had one of the fastest cars in the race, but he ends up with a 4th place finish. Daniel Suarez with a top 5. He was a very happy man after that. And how about Brad Keselowski, also on a long winless streak? It's been 3 years since Keselowski has won, back when he was with Team Penske before moving over to the Roush Fenway Keselowski and becoming a part team owner. Well, 2nd place for Keselowski, a great finish for him. Let's hear from some of our top 5 finishers on that result in Texas.
In the last 4 weeks, we have had better cars and our finish, and today we made up for it because it was the opposite. You know, we we definitely finished better than the way that we raced. At the end of the day, the guys did a good job with the strategy. We got a couple of good restarts, and we finished in the top 5. So that's a decent day.
All of us are pushing each other to be better, and those guys, I know how hard they've worked, and they're a very capable team. So it's nice to see them have results, and Chase works hard, and he's a good teammate, and so always pulling for those guys, and just cool to see us continue to win races. No matter what racetrack we are, it seems like all 4 of us are executing really well.
Yeah, they certainly are. Take a look at some other notable finishers. Carson Hocevar finishes in 10th. More on him in a little bit on this show. Ty Gibbs with a 13th place finish. He actually started up on the front row and fades at the end. Perhaps a little disappointing performance from him. We're waiting for that big breakthrough from the second-year driver with Joe Gibbs Racing. He's going to win one soon. When's it going to happen? Larson ends up 21st. He had a wheel fall off, so he's got a couple crew members who are going to be suspended for the next couple races, but he managed to battle back from a 2-lap. They held him for 2 laps, so a penalty of 2 laps. He got back on the lead lap by the end of this thing, but the car just wasn't the same by the time he got back to that lead lap. Jimmy Johnson making one of his not so regular appearances, but finishes 29th. He spun out during that race, and Denny Hamlin ends up in 30th. That's a guy who was battling for the victory at the end of the race, but he too spun out as he was trying to go for the win. We'll hear from him in just a second. But first, let's take a look at our victory lane. And for the first time in a few weeks, we actually add a driver to victory lane as Chase Elliott makes his way in there. We've mentioned Hendrick Motorsports. Well, now 1, 2, 3 of those drivers make their way to victory lane. They're in green. They are locked in, assuming we don't get more than 16 winners this year, which at this pace doesn't feel like it's going to happen, especially with a few of these multi-time winners in Denny Hamlin and William Byron already up to 3. But I will say, don't be surprised when number 14 right there, Alex Bowman, joins victory lane as well. With Hendrick Motorsports, I think all 4 of those drivers are going to make it into the 16 for the postseason. We take a look at your latest driver standings. It is Larson, even with that 21st place finish, ending up atop the point standings ahead of Martin Truex Jr. And then some race winners, Hamlin, Elliott, Byron, Gibbs, Blaney. He got wrecked in the middle of that race as well. He drops down to 7th, and Reddick moves up to 8th after that top 5 finish. All right, let's discuss this latest race, shall we? And a lot of the question marks heading into Texas was, what's it going to look like, right? They were coming off a short track, just kind of a bummer of a race out there in Martinsville after another bummer of a race at Richmond. And they went into Texas, one of those intermediate tracks, thinking, well, this is a place that hasn't exactly produced the best racing since its reconfiguration a few years back. But since that reconfiguration, this is probably the best race that they've had at Texas. Yes, it was hard to pass. That certainly did happen. You had drivers struggling to make their way to the front of the field, but they did. We did have a switching of the guard, as it were, whether it be through strategy, through cautions, through guys just pushing it to the absolute limit and trying to do everything they could to get the victory. And sometimes a bad circumstance can change a race completely. Take a look at Kyle Larson. He was dominating over the first half of that race, has the tire fall off, and the race fell off for him from there, basically. Denny Hamlin, another guy who had a great opportunity to go out and win. And for Denny, who, as we mentioned, is already in the green, he's already got the wins, well, he wants more wins. He wants those playoff points. And even though he ended up way down in the field in 30th, it was certainly worth the try for Denny Hamlin and the number 11.
When you got to push it the most on a green-white checker, it's, I knew that the likely scenario is I wasn't going to make it out of the corner with as much speed as I was carrying. But, it's trying to go for the win. So I just, got loose and spun out.
All right, so let's take you over to our tag board here and the social reactions and all the different information that we can bring you here from this victory. So your weekly poll. Was it a good race? Well, Jeff Gluck sending out his poll. 72.9% said yes. The passing was better than it's been. And that is a new #1 Texas race out of the 16 Texas races so far. Chase Elliott, you thought that might get the bump if you follow the teardown or any of the writing of those guys over at The Athletic. Well, maybe not quite the big Chase Elliott bump as far as how many points in the standings go for that. How about it? let's take a look at this right here. So Chase Elliott, this was an interesting stat to me. His last 13 wins have come on 13 different tracks, as he adds Texas to this long list of places that Chase Elliott has won at. Texas is somewhere he'd never had a top 5 before. So for him not only to get into the top 5, but to get the victory on a 13th different track, I guess the question is, where are you going to take him next? I don't know, Iowa? It's not on the list here. Talladega is, so he's not going to win this week. Yeah, just a little fun there. We mentioned, of course, Brad Keselowski here getting out of his ride. Well, here's a stat from Trey Ryan, always the great stats on social media. Keselowski has scored 3 top 5 finishes in the first 9 races of this year, and this is the first time an RFK Racing driver has had 3 top 5s in the first 9 since Carl Edwards back in 2013. That's really going way back in there. We mentioned the Dawsonville pool room. There it is with the sign. And one more bit of statistical data for you from Auto Racing Analytics, showing you the final 50 laps in the Cup race based on their speeds. Well, Chase Elliott would have only been the 3rd fastest of those cars, behind Reddick and Hamlin. Hamlin, of course, wrecked out. Reddick was not able to get the win. He was a little upset afterwards about not being able to come through and get that victory, despite really being in position. I mean, the speed shows it. Over those last 50 laps, he certainly had the speed. All right there. One more nod, by the way, to the Polish victory lap for Alan Kulwicki, as Chase Elliott turned it around on the front stretch and went to salute the fans. All right, how about my most impressive performance of the race? And for it, there was a lot of options in this one. Not going to lie, Daniel Suarez had that top 5, Keselowski in 2nd. Give me Carson Hocevar. How about it? First career top 10 for the rookie driver racing for Spire Motorsports. And that team actually showing some speed in this race. You talk a lot about the major teams, right? The Penske's, the Joe Gibbs Racings, the Hendrick Motorsports, who really dominate this sport with their teams and numbers and their skills and their massive staffs that are putting things together. Well, Zane Smith ends up 26th, but he did run up front for a good amount of this race. Corey LaJoie ends up in 22nd, and Carson Hocevar, 10th place. It's been a fast rise for the 21-year-old Hocevar. Only has 5 career Xfinity starts. He really kind of jumped straight to the Cup Series after his great year in the trucks last year. 4 wins last year in the trucks, and he also got a chance to ride in the Cup Series in that number 42 car, taking over for Noah Gragson at the end of last year. My top performer, most impressive performer, is Carson Hocevar. All right, we're taking a timeout here on the Cupdate. Still to come, oh, we're going to talk to the champ. The champ is here. Oh, and he's pretty good at this racetrack they're headed to this week, that Talladega. Ryan Blaney still looking for his first win, and frankly, Ford's first win of the season. We'll chat with the champ, Ryan Blaney. That's coming up next, right here on the Cupdate. What started out as better people, better projects just keeps getting, well, better. That's Better Exterior Solutions, ready to help you create a better outdoor experience. Check this out. Motorized pergolas are the latest in technology to transform your outdoor space. Beautiful day? Let the sun shine through. Summer rainstorm? These pergola systems close automatically to keep the weather out. From residential to commercial uses, Better Exterior Solutions has products customized to meet virtually any existing architectural structure. With retractable awnings, screens, and hurricane shutters too, if you want unparalleled quality and expertise, you need Better Exterior Solutions. Get a free estimate by visiting betterexteriors.com or calling 904-902-4999. Better Exterior Solutions. Experience better.
You're watching the Cupdate on Action Sports Jax 24/7.
Winning is in his family's DNA, and Ryan has just crested the mountain of all wins. Ryan Blaney is a NASCAR Cup Series champion.
What a moment in Phoenix as the 12 team broke through. Ryan Blaney, one of the most consistent drivers really over the last 5 years or so, but just hadn't done it in the playoffs. That is until a year ago, as Blaney gets the win in 2023, the Cup Series champion. But as we just mentioned a moment ago, there are no wins yet for Ryan Blaney or, frankly, for any of the Fords. But if you had to pick a racetrack where Blaney could go out there and get the job done, it would probably be this week. He's a great super speedway racer. He ended up, well, he wrecked out at Daytona, but he's usually pretty good at Daytona. Finished oh so close at Atlanta. If you remember, it was 3 1,000ths of a second, which actually got beat as far as a close finish by the Xfinity race in Texas this past week. 2 1,000ths of a second. But Blaney came, well, probably about that close to getting the win in Atlanta. Let's learn a little bit about Ryan Blaney, getting right into the heart of his career. He is 30 years old and coming off a championship 1 year ago. So in 11 years racing in the Cup Series, he has 10 Cup Series victories. Of course, raced for the Wood brothers early on, and now with Team Penske. Of those 10 wins, 3 of them came at Talladega, and he was crowned the champion 1 year ago. Let's hear from Ryan Blaney, as first he congratulates his good buddy Chase Elliott on the win, and then we get into a little bit about Talladega.
Yeah, I mean, I was happy for Chase, obviously, right? I mean, he had a rough year last year, with his injury and everything that went on, and so it was nice for him to get back to victory lane like he deserves to be in, and I mean, gosh, I mean, he did what he needed to do to win the race. I mean, he didn't do anything overly aggressive. He took opportunities like he needed to win, and he did it. So I mean, hey, I've been on long winless streak too. I think he was like 42. I had a 50-something race winless streak, and it gets hard and frustrating. And it's like, what do I got to do to win again? And it can be tough, but it's the same Chase, the same great racer that he's been forever. Just went through a little spell of, kind of not great times for a little bit, but it's how you claw yourself out of it. So I was proud of him for clawing himself out of it, and having confidence in his abilities and going out there and taking what was his, and that was winning the race. So I was happy for him for sure. We couldn't do it.
Ryan, we still have yet to see the Ford find victory lane, but based on your success that you guys have had at Talladega in the past and what you guys learned from Daytona and Atlanta, how much do you like the way this car is going to perform here on the Super Speedway this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, the Speedways have been, pretty good for the Fords, for a while, really ever since I've been in the Cup Series. I feel like we've always been super strong and really been able to compete and try to control the race. That's kind of one thing we've always talked about, is like, how can we control the race? Whether it's with our numbers in the Ford camp, the strategy, how can we just control the first handful of rows, and it helps when you have fast cars, and Ford's brought fast cars. Roush Yates has done a good job of knowing what we need at those racetracks. And I mean, all the Fords were strong in Atlanta. I thought we were really strong at Daytona on the speedways, and I'm sure Talladega is going to be the same way. We'll all be really strong. So you just hope that, you can be there at the end of this race and, have a shot to win it. I have no doubt in the speed. It's just about how you execute and try to get through the day. But I think we've been creeping up on it. It's obviously not the performance like we would have wanted to have so far this year, even on the other tracks. But, we've put together some pretty good runs on our side. I thought Martinsville, we were great. We just needed track position. In Talladega, Texas, before we kind of got mixed up with pit strategy at the end of stage 2, I thought we were one of the best cars that could have competed for it, and just got behind on pit strategy and never was able to finish it. So we're creeping up on it. So hopefully we can put one together at Talladega and get a blue oval in victory lane. We need that pretty bad. And I couldn't think of a better place to try to have that one.
I know one of those questions definitely going into Daytona was how this car was going to be as a pusher. I know new nose and all that from what we've seen in those races. Do we like how it's performed with kind of that body style?
Yeah, I haven't felt too much of a difference, from Daytona. Atlanta, you're not like pushing as much there. But Talladega, you're kind of hooked up and pushing more than Daytona. So this would kind of be a bigger test of okay, where's this new nose at? I really didn't feel too much of a difference when we played around with it in Daytona in practice and through the race. I still thought we could give the best pushes and connect really well. So that's been a huge advantage for the Mustang as compared to the other guys. I feel like they have more trouble kind of connecting. And you see it, like the Chevys have trouble kind of tandem drafting a little bit. And we're just a little bit more secure when it comes to that stuff. So that's a huge advantage that we have. So hopefully we can continue to utilize that advantage.
We shall see how Blaney does at Daytona this weekend. Still to come, we go for a different drive, and it's Kyle Larson really preparing for a different drive as he gets ready to do the double. That's coming up next right here on the Cupdate. What started out as better people, better projects just keeps getting, well, better. That's Better Exterior Solutions, ready to help you create a better outdoor experience. Check this out. Motorized pergolas are the latest in technology to transform your outdoor space. Beautiful day? Let the sun shine through. Summer rainstorm? These pergola systems close automatically to keep the weather out. From residential to commercial uses, Better Exterior Solutions has products customized to meet virtually any existing architectural structure. With retractable awnings, screens, and hurricane shutters too, if you want unparalleled quality and expertise, you need Better Exterior Solutions. Get a free estimate by visiting betterexteriors.com or calling 904-902-4999. Better Exterior Solutions. Experience better.
You're watching the Cupdate on Action Sports Jax 24/7.
All right, so Talladega Super Speedway. Here's your weekend schedule. The Truck Series taking the weekend off. It'll be the ARCA. Oh, there is going to be so much carnage in ARCA. Saturday afternoon, 12:30. Xfinity cars head out there Saturday at 4. And then the Cup Series Sunday at 3 o'clock. A couple driver notes for you. Shane Van Gisbergen going to be in the number 16 for Kaulig Racing this week in the Cup Series. You have Anthony Alfredo for Beard Motorsports, as well as BJ McLeod with the Live Fast Motorsports. So 2 open entries heading to Talladega because it's one of those tracks where, hey, anything can happen, and they're hoping something does happen for them. Welcome back to the Cupdate, and you can watch that race, of course, on Fox 30, back to Big Fox this weekend for the running of the Geico 500 at Talladega. How about time for a different drive? And this week on A Different Drive, we're talking IndyCar racing. And Kyle Larson, who picks up the second fastest time in Indy 500 practice this week. For those who don't know, Kyle Larson will have a very busy weekend coming up in May as he attempts to do the double, as they like to call it. 4 drivers have attempted the double. That's the Coke 600 and the Indy 500. John Andretti, Robbie Gordon, Kurt Busch, and Tony Stewart's the only one to have ever completed 1,100 miles. Kyle Larson getting ready for a tall task in May.
I think the biggest thing for me going from a Cup car to an Indy car is just remembering what all the buttons and stuff on the steering wheel do. That's really the biggest thing so far. Like I always, every time I get in, I'm like, okay, what does this weight jacker left versus right do? You know, moving the bar forward versus rearward. Like, what does that do? Like, I just have to get reminded of that. It seems every time I get back in it.
And I saw that he had a good day, and I'm certainly excited for him. Getting back and forth, the stress and time commitment. I mean, I was really surprised how much time is required to get through the month of May, which just a couple weeks of May, at the track in Indy itself. Thankfully, the NASCAR schedule is much more relaxed, and that's really what it's about, is getting reps in the very unique situations that you see in the race. Practice, I personally didn't see the aero situations and the traffic situations that came about in the race, and that's where I wasn't as prepared as I would have liked to have been.
Yeah, and there you saw what happened when Jimmy Johnson was not prepared, had a bad wreck there in his only running of the Indy 500. Remember, he didn't race it the first year that he did that little Indy foray. Now he's back to doing some part-time Cup Series driving. All right, we'll see how that goes next month, but that's going to do it for this edition of the Action Sports Jax Cupdate. Texas Motor Speedway social media account sending out this quiet track picture. I like ending the show on a quiet track. It's a beautiful sight as we end the Cupdate. Have a good one, everyone. Enjoy the racing at Talladega.
Thanks for watching the Cupdate on Action Sports Jax 24/7.